Hey guys, technical hiccup, burp, something. Running on a new computer. Might have messed up my settings. Who knows? I'm a dumb old bastard, so I do have technical issues. But yeah, we wanted to come back and kind of do part two, finish up our chat because I realized as we were rambling another 10 minutes that my recording cut off as I was bitching about Geraldine. It wasn't bitching about her. We were talking about the DM that says that Geraldine, used to run his game this way, but it's my game now, and I'm going to run that way. So if I'm to continue that train of thought, be consistent with your group. If you're taking over for an in play campaign or in play session, if you're that person that steps up to be the DM.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So and there's less players than there are DMs out there. You want to get a game going, offer yourself up as a DM. I mean, I think Wizards will sit there and tell you their numbers are 75% of the player base versus 25%. They don't know. They don't fricking know. Because then they
No,
come back on the
that's
flip
brutal.
side and say less than 11% of people have bought the content on D&D Beyond, which puts it on us, the D&D, the DMs. 11% of us are buying 70% of the content on D&D Beyond because we're DMs, we need it. There might be a player
Yeah,
or two stuck in there, but there's a huge dearth shortage of dungeon masters out there. So if you're wanting to get into D&D, you've been watching the video trying to figure out how to do it as a player, how to do it as a DM. Yeah, I mean, there's you're not going to hurt for an opportunity to run a game.
absolutely not. And honestly, just get in and do it. Like, just do it as a DM. Like, don't be afraid to do it. You're gonna fuck up. Like bottom line, you're gonna mess it up. You absolutely are, and that's fine. You don't need to worry about it. And because I'm not the fastest at math, so I keep a calculator a lot of times. Jim's super fast at it. Like, so we'll do combat. He'll be like, okay, you just did 7 damage to this thing. It has this much HP now, and he can just spit those numbers out. And I'm like, okay, well, you were at 32. What's 32 minus 7? Like, like I am not. Yeah, so like don't worry about stuff like that. It happens.
Yeah, if you're using D&D Beyond, most of the math is done for you anyway. If you're
Yeah,
using pen and paper, it's going to go at your own pace. But yeah, I think in part of our cutoff, one thing that Josh had brought up was play group size, and this is strictly from
yeah,
a dungeon master's point of view. Well, kind of from a player point of view too. Anybody, you don't want
yeah,
to start your first game out and have like 8 or 9 people at the table.
yeah. It will not go well for you. It will take forever. Any interaction you have, combat, even role play, will take hours to get through. If you have 8 people, like we were doing the math, 8 people, a minute per turn is what 5 minutes or 30 minutes for 5 rounds. Yeah, which is
And
ridiculous.
and most of your fights are going to be 3 to 5 rounds. And in fact, D&D will tell you in the Dungeon Master's Guide. I'm not saying it's canon or gospel, but they will suggest, as when you're building it, when you're building an encounter, when you're building a challenge, is there any reason to roll these dice? If this encounter is going to be over in one round, then why are you planning that encounter? They happen. Trouble's going to happen often enough for it to do that, but you don't want to plan an encounter just to be over in one round. You're planning a combat, you're planning an event, so you're going to plan it for 3, 4, 5 rounds, which puts you back into 30, 45 minutes for that sequence of combat. So
Yeah,
you add 8 people to that, you know, and then you add the lack of knowledge, the inexperience, and then
yeah,
the ever changing battlefield saying that you have 1 minute to do your turn. Man, that's not fair. I mean, I've seen and heard DMs that will put the little hourglass and have it running. And
oh,
if you
don't do
hadn't got to the end
that.
of your hourglass, your turn, you're just defending this turn. You're dodging. That's bullshit, dude. That's bullshit.
Yeah,
You know.
don't do that. I
It,
mean, be reasonable with it. Be like, look, like I'm not going to give you 5 minutes for your turn every round. From time to time, it might happen where like so much stuff has happened in a turn where you're like, hold on, give me a minute. I have to like figure this out, and that happens
yeah.
sometimes. But don't, yeah, don't do a time clock on them. 30 seconds, figure it out. Like, don't do that,
Well, and
especially when you start with new players.
yeah.
Yeah,
So if you're keeping your group size under control, and as people get better during their turn, learning their rules, learning the sequence, the pace picks up a little bit to make up for those 3 or 4 minute turns where
yeah,
someone didn't sure. But again, as we said, in a perfect world, if every person on an 8 person table had to have 1 minute for their stuff, 5 rounds of combat is 40 minutes of your session gone, almost 30% of your session for one fight. So Taking that down to 2 people, ironically, only takes it down to 30 minutes, so you save a few minutes on it. But point being, you have to plan for time for combat. No different than if you're doing it, and we're focusing on combat because it's kind of easy to focus on because we all relate to it. What about a role play dialogue encounter? There's
Yeah.
no way to gauge how long that will go. You
Yeah.
know, I mean,
Yeah, especially and to give 8 people equal time to talk and role play their characters, like you could lose. I mean, not lose, but you could spend several sessions just role playing in one area.
well, I'm going to take it a step further. If you have 8 people sitting there in a role play encounter, 4 of those people won't ever really get their turn because everything that needs to be found out is going to be drug out by the first few people. So, in addition to spending an hour to 2 hours in a dialogue, you're going to end up leaving 3 or 4 people out as spectators that are just kind of sitting there going, golly gee, I guess maybe next session I'll be able to talk.
Or splitting the party so they have something to do while you're doing that, which
That's,
can also have its own downsides as well.
then you're isolating 2 different parties. But we'll worry about, splitting the party's going to happen. The big meme that says never split the party, it always happens. It always happens.
It
These
does.
dudes want to go buy donuts. This guy wants to go to Sword Sharton. This guy wants to go check on the girl that he talked to last night. All right, so I've got 5 people going in 3 directions now, and I want to allow for the flexibility. I want to allow for the player agency. So you got to support that. That's on the players to be quick and be prompt and understand that just because you're alone now doesn't mean that you're playing D&D and you can take the next hour at a time. I do a lot of the meanwhile. So, I mean, no one feels like they're getting a fair shake at my table because you've got about 40 seconds before I go to the next group.
I think the split the party thing is only going to really apply to people in dungeons. Like, for instance, like if you're a monk, don't go, oh, I have 50 feet of movement. That means I can run 100 feet and like per turn and just dash off 100 feet. And now everybody else has to spend 2 turns getting to the 100 feet that you dashed.
Well,
And they're going to always be behind you. And now you're 1,000 feet into a dungeon, and now you're being attacked by everything while your party can't get to you.
now, and I think,
that's the only time it really applies.
well, that's a great concept. I think it goes a little bit deeper than that because when we're learning how to play, you want to use the maximum of your ability. So the DM's going to let the monk run 90 feet up ahead. The party's going to see everything that the monk sees on the map, and they're going to start planning accordingly because the DM isn't experienced enough to deal with fog of war or to deal with metagaming. You guys don't know that. Are you standing there with him? You don't know he's about to get jumped by 5 gnolls. Y'all need to shut up and go play with your torches. He went running ahead of you. And a lot of people early on have a struggle with that, man.
Let's actually address that because that might be a term that some players might not know.
Meta. Yeah.
Metagaming. So, metagaming is something that you'll get through like role playing or combat stuff like that, where it is what does my character know versus what do I know, right? So, let's split the party thing, for instance, right? Where some part of your group has gone to talk to a banker somewhere, and they've gotten some information. Your character wasn't there for it. You can't suddenly have that knowledge. That's what metagaming is. Like, I personally know that information, so now my character knows it. That's not how it works. Like, you need to make sure that you separate the two, like whenever you're playing.
But now, let's not be scary about that. In that particular example, because the expectation, the mechanical gameplay expectation would be that Mr. Bard and Mr. Cleric that went to talk to Mr. Upright Businessman found out this information. The other 3 people, the fighter, the rogue, and the wizard, were shopping all across town. They heard the comment at the same time, right? So the expectation is the wizard, the fighter, and the rogue don't know. So the bard and the cleric have to go tell the wizard, the bard, and the cleric. Now, it's okay to especially early on, to say whatever the DM said, this is what you guys know now. But eventually, the idea is that you should be role playing that out. You should be, you forgot to mention the 6 guards, didn't you? Oh yeah, that's right. Which brings the RP, the adventure, the spontaneous element to the game. So yeah, that's one good term for meta. Another one for me is a little bit more of a strategic thing. That is planning your build, your feats, your attributes, everything about your character to capitalize on abilities to neutralize the threats of an adventure.
Yeah.
A third one is power gaming. I'm not as grrr about that as I used to be. But another version of metagaming is someone that's got a phenomenal memory, has read the monster manual upside down and knows every armor class, every hit point, every stat block, everything about every monster in that book. And you've rolled, and that book says the orc's got 14 hit points, and that dude's tracking ammo, hit points in his head. Well, we've done 23 points of damage to this orc. What the hell? Why is he still alive? How are you supposed to know that, fool? Oh, that's right. You're a metagamer. You read the monster manual. That's another term for it, you know?
Yeah.
Or another thing that's covered by the term.
This is a side tangent, but that's something that drives me insane. Like if I'm DMing you as a player, please don't look up monsters while you're fighting them. I mean, okay. So for instance, let's say you're an orc hunter and you know orcs. Okay, that's one thing, right?
Yeah.
But for you to go, oh, I've never seen an imp in my life before, and now you've pulled up the character sheet and go, okay, well, these are its resistances and stuff like that. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
It drives me insane. I had a player doing that at one of my tables where he was literally on his phone, like looking up monsters as we were fighting them, and like, oh, okay, well, it's got a 14 armor class, guys. Dude, like
You suddenly notice the 4 rings on each finger giving off a magical glow. He's actually got an armor class of 40 because he's multiplied by 10, dick. And you're not going to hit him and y'all are going to die. No, I'm kidding. You don't go that hard. You shouldn't go that hard. But, you know, the flip side of that is that mentality. I don't know if it's sprung from the video game, single player must always win, but that's trying to win at D&D. You're pretty much guaranteed when you're playing a campaign with a group of people to survive the encounter because you're trying to get to the end goal. Unless you're an idiot and you did something that you had that fight coming and you walked into something you know you shouldn't have, your DM has given you every opportunity to get out of it without dying, and you still go headstrong into it and die, then that's it. Most of the time the encounters are set up to be I'm gonna lose gracefully. I don't plan on killing the party with this. I want it to be a fun, stressful, damn, he had me down 11 hit points. We had it. That's my job. Lose gracefully so we can continue the story along. My job is not to let them do whatever they want and have zero consequence. You go up to the king's court, you slap him, you spit in his bowl, and you grab the queen and give her a kiss, you're dead. We roll all night. I'm going to kill you. If I've got to pull in 2,342 knights, you're going to die tonight. Because that consequence begets that action. You know? So yeah.
In the same vein as like setting up a fight so that it's winnable, right? Don't just let them auto win either.
No.
Like, don't be afraid to knock a player down. If the dice wind up killing a player, it happens. You know,
there's ways to come back.
yeah. I mean, yeah, that's true. There's multiple ways to bring characters back to life now.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and that's a little bit higher level thinking, and that's something that you'll find with time. There is a way to give the majority of your fights enough of a threat to where the players feel challenged, and in some cases even like, is this really the night he's going to kill us? Holy crap. Without intending to do it. You don't have to set up encounters or combat with the intent to kill. The dice will help you a lot on that. Bad tactics by the players will help you a lot about that. If anything, you're going to have to be, if you set up to kill, you're going to have to be fighting really hard not to kill them so you can play next week. You know?
Yeah. Or you're going to have a whole new party, one of the two.
Like back in the old days, man. First edition, you had your primary, you had your secondary. Each of them had 2 or 3 henchmen because you knew you were going to lose somebody. You know, and some of the old modules would tell you in the first paragraph, this is an insane difficult module. You should warn your players, do not bring your favorite characters as they are not likely to survive this adventure. Use one of the pre-generated characters instead. That was then. This is now. Now, all of that being said, guys, you can still run hardcore. You can still run out to kill if you really want to, but that's a lot more challenging in 5th than it was in 1st. I don't want to spend too much time.
And that's also another one of those like set expectations things too. Like let your players know before going into it. We're gonna run hardcore. Yeah. Like you're gonna track food. You're gonna track arrows. You're not going to be safe in every corridor if you decide you want a long rest. You know, in the middle of a hallway. Yeah. You know, stuff like that.
So yeah, but you know, all of that stuff kind of adds up. I'm going to throw one more thing in here, and I kind of touched on it a little bit on our last chat, the last one, not the broken episode 10 seconds ago. But it's okay to lean into tropes. It's okay to say, like that building from XYZ. You see a big wall, kind of almost like it looked like in Helm's Deep. Remember? It's okay. A lot of people are like, "Oh, how dare you?" The sooner your players get that image in their brain, the sooner they're engaged in the moment. You know, you don't have to be the guy that describes the clock that looks like Big Ben. If you can just say it looks a lot like Big Ben, or you could spend 20 minutes describing a clock that looks like Big Ben. You know.
Absolutely, do not be afraid to steal from your favorite books, movies, games, anything. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Do not be afraid. Wizards does it themselves. Like I was saying earlier, the Cinderella stuff, the Alice in Wonderland stuff, they do it themselves. Do not be afraid to go, oh, I want to run, such and such book as a D&D campaign, or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like you said earlier. Like if you want to run it, do it.
Okay, let's look at Wizards' original properties. In my opinion, original meaning it's not a redux of something in the 70s, 80s, 90s, or 2000s. I would say Wild Beyond the Witchlight. I would say Strixhaven, and I would say the Sunless Citadel. Half of the Sunless Citadel. Some of the Sunless Citadel was repeats of some of your other stuff. Yeah. So out of 35 books, out of 18 adventure books, only 3 of them are original new creations. Every other one of them is a 5th edition redux of old property. Princes of the Apocalypse, Temple of Elemental Evil. Rise of Tiamat, Cult of the Dragon Queen. Out of the Abyss, Descent into the Underdepths. D123, Storm King's Thunder, Against the Giants. Ghost of Saltmarsh Mission. Need I continue? There's very few originals. So the company that's supporting the game is plagiarizing their own content to give you new content. That means it's okay for us to steal shit all day long too. They can't be bothered to write up Tomb of Annihilation. No, that's Dwellers of the Forbidden City mixed with Tomb of Horrors. That's it. That's all. 2 30-page modules, 62 pages total that were printed in the day. They managed to turn into 242 pages for you. You don't need all that shit. You can go buy a little 30-pager and you're done.
Yeah.
Or you don't even have to do that. You can skim an idea, because you played a couple times, you have a framework on how an adventure can go, and you're making up your own stuff. So, yeah man. Don't feel constrained by content. Don't feel constrained to run it this way because that's what someone on Reddit said. Don't feel constrained to, this isn't an official game, so it's less than. If anything, it's more than. You're putting your heart and effort and soul into it. It's okay.
Absolutely.
But above all, especially when you guys are new player or DM, keep it small. Just worry about, did everyone show up? Did everyone kind of go through their turn sequence in order? Did everyone have a lot of fun? And are they coming back next week? When you've gotten to the point where the comeback next week is we're 8 weeks in now and we're kind of starting to get bored, we kind of want something else. What's past level 5? That's when you go buy the next book. That's when you go buy Tasha's. That's when you don't need to buy 45 books to sit on the side of your table going, damn, I wish I had someone to play D&D with,
Yeah. So. That's completely fair. Yeah. That's actually a really good point. Yeah. Like try it out before buying it. I guess that's why they offer the basic rules for free.
They know it. Well, they're not dumb. They know if
first taste is always free,
dude. If you like, but therein lies the difference is that need to be your only taste to continue playing. Everything else is just stuff heaped up on top of the basic rules. It's supplementary. It's additional codification. You get the basic rules, character sheets, set of graph papers, some pencils, and a dice. You're playing D&D forever and ever and ever and ever without spending another penny on it. But yeah,
and you can always make up your own stuff once you have a grasp of how things work. It's nobody says you can't.
Absolutely.
Like there's like even going back to like the Matt Mercer thing, they literally have added a whole class that he made up that didn't exist.
Oh, which one? The Blood Hunter. The Blood Hunter.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember if it was that or the Gunslinger.
Yeah. We won't get into that. We'll talk about that once this is done. We'll talk about the gun thing after this.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. You're not. Yeah. That's gonna make a lot of people mad. But
what do you mean? The fact that there's guns exist?
They have officially put guns into D&D. Yes.
Well, they put it in the errata, but they said it's up to your DM to determine what's sold in a store or not. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, still, they're officially on the weapons table now.
Well, you know what? Yeah. We'll worry about that later.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We'll talk about it later.
I'm of the mind. I mean, I don't know. There's better games to play with guns out there. That's the way I look at it. You know, I'm not going to use Twilight 2000 to play with a dragon and a sword. Why am I going to use Dungeons and Dragons to play with an AR-15 and an AGS-17 grenade launcher?
I'll tell you,
It's stupid.
the only time that I've ever wanted to play a gunslinger in this world was to combine it with an alchemist so I could fire like vials at people. That is all I've ever wanted.
You just wanted
So I can be an
grenade
alchemist,
launcher, man.
shoot, yeah, I'm an alchemist. I can shoot further. Like that's it. Like
an M79
30
grenade launcher.
yeah, I think it'd be really fun just to be like, oh, here's the kill potion, boom, and just hit somebody from like far away. I think it'd be fun. I don't know.
Well, but dude, that's and here's if you're still with us. Here's the cool thing at home. If Josh and I decided that, you know, that sounds really fun, we would sit down and hammer out a way to make it work. We would probably break it, probably make it wrong, and have to adjust a couple things back, and then make it work. And there's not a single soul in the world that can come and tell me you're doing it wrong because you gave your artillerist, you made your artillerist have a grenade launcher. It's in the name, number one, but you know, let's leave that out. You know, so there's no downside of trying stuff, playing with stuff. The only thing you're going to lose is a little bit of time. But what you're going to do every single instance of that is learn something about the rule. So you're not losing, you know?
Yeah.
So
you're definitely learning a lot about balancing through doing stuff like that too.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But we're going to go ahead and finish up because I think between the two of them we're actually sitting at about an hour and a half. I do apologize. Brand new computer. I don't know why it froze like midstream and hit the stop record, but it did. So thank you for coming back for part 2 if you did. We're just going to sum it up and, you know, kind of if Josh has got any closings. So new players, don't be afraid. Don't be embarrassed. You're joining a like-minded community. There's no weird here anymore. There's no weird. We're playing Talking Hippos, and the DM is pretending to be a guy and a girl, and a guy who thinks he's a girl who's in love with a dragon. Okay? Don't, you know, it's okay. We're all accepting our weird, and we're all accepting our fun, and so let that inhibition go. No one's going to be judging you because you come in and you want to play a female elf. Odds are the dude next to you is playing a female elf as well. Okay? It's okay.
We have a player that plays a non-binary character currently that is not non-binary themselves. Like, yeah.
Yeah, you know. I mean, this is me kind of breaking character a little bit, but a lot of times I allow role play. I allow investment. I want my people to invest in the non-player characters and invest in the world. So it's like they'll be flirting around, but every once in a while I got to remind them, it's like, this is what you're flirting with, just so you know. You know?
Yeah.
And then I go, anyway, hot stuff.
Hey, big boy.
Looking
get this
mighty
voice
fine.
going on.
Yeah, right. You're looking mighty fine in them chaps there, buddy. So, just point being, it's the inhibitions. The moment you sit down, everyone else that's already playing with you, those are gone. That's an accepted part of D&D. Playing D&D. Have fun, relax, be who you want to be yourself. And on the flip side of that, if you sit down at the table and you're nervous about it, it's okay. No one is forcing you to take up a voice. Talk in third person. My character Fromore says that he wants to go get a chicken leg, and then Fromore says he wants to go buy a sword down at the shop. That's role playing, y'all. That's okay. Nothing wrong with that, you know. So don't feel.
Honestly, if you're playing an orc, then it's role playing too.
Something with intelligence about 7 or 8. Fromar want donut. Fromar go fishing. You're role playing straight up, bro.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, the role playing comes with time. Relax, let the inhibitions go. Be ready to make mistakes. Every one of us gonna make mistakes. Right now, I got a session tomorrow, and I promise you I'll screw something up in the process of running it. It's okay. You know, we all accept it. We're all gonna learn from it. Go on. Don't bog yourself down in a session arguing with rules. All you're doing is wasting time building up resentment. Let it go. Go with the most entertaining option, and look it up later. That's what the week between this Friday and next Friday is for. Check your rules. Get your preparation. Don't mess up a session, either player or DM. If your DM says it's this way, just let it slide. If you find out the ruling later, let them know. You know.
And we haven't brought this up, but sometimes it's okay to go with the rule of cool. Like, that's a cool thing to do. Do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes that is completely an okay thing to do.
Yeah. So I mean, but yeah, whether you're with the things to focus on as a new DM, consistency. If you're going to use your difficulty checks, if you're going to announce them, always announce them. Don't all of a sudden say, "Well, you don't know what this one is." You know, you're playing dirty. If you're rolling in front of a screen, always roll in front of a screen. If you're rolling behind a screen, always roll behind. Don't change mid-campaign. You're going to break the trust in your players. There's already a little bit of a faith. There's always that question of, is the DM being fair? Because, you hear the rumor DM is God and da 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 da. So the things that you can control that help the consistency and stability of the game, make sure to be consistent with those. Session 0, invest in the people. I mean, the simplest thing I can say is you're about to sit down at a table for 3 to 4 hours of your life. 3 to 4 hours that you're not going to get back. And you're going to commit to doing that every week ad infinitum. I think it's fair to spend an hour before that happens getting to know the people before you commit that other 3-hour block to it. You're setting yourself up for success. You're setting yourself up for a better time. You're saving yourself potential misery if you sit down with these people and they're... Yeah, so, when you're in your session 0, get used to each other's play styles. Voice your boundaries. Voice the things that are, hey guys, I'm not going to be cool with rape scenes. I'm not going to be cool with child slavery. I'm not going to be cool if you're describing someone's entrails getting ripped out of them and fed to a dragon. Whatever your triggers are, that's the time to say them. And a respectful group will say, okay, cool, we'll fade to black. Okay, cool, I won't do that. Or they're going to be direct and say, nah, man, we're all about the carnage here. And then at least in that session 0, you might not fit in that group.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's okay to not fit in a group. It's okay to wait and find another one.
Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine. There's always more people playing D&D. Always more people playing D&D.
Yeah. And above all else, I mean, for me, it's kind of a golden rule is respect each other's time. The whether you're a player, whether you're a DM, we're all dedicating time to this game, to this session, to this campaign, to learning in the off sessions, all of that. So make sure you're being respectful of each other's time. Understand that you're sharing that time and that experience with other people. If you're an egomaniac that says, if when you sit down at a table with me and you're talking to me about your character or how you're playing, and if the only thing I hear out of your mouth is I want, I am, I will, I want, I am, I will, I am, I don't want you at my table. Because there's a we that's playing. If I don't at least hear an acknowledgement of the we, of the group in what you're saying, then I don't want you at my freaking table. And I'm going to be excuse me for being that way. Because it's collaboration first. If you're so self-centered that you can't remember that you got 3 other people at that table, maybe you ought not to play D&D, because you're going to be floating campaign to campaign to campaign. I mean, if we're being upfront, if you're coming in here expecting this to be Skyrim and you're the Dovahkiin and you're going to be the single person in the character and everyone else is just carrying your shit, you're going to be disappointed.
Absolutely. I mean, it honestly at that point, write a book. Just write a book.
Well, that's important for DMs. I was talking about that as a player. DM, I'm not here to make them play out a story that I wrote in my head. They are playing the game. They're experiencing the world that I produce and present for them. If I do a good enough job of it, then it flows in the direction of my story. If they go in their own direction, that means that something else has caught their eye, and I have the responsibility to keep that interesting for them. I'm not writing a script for them. I'm not a writer. I don't give them a piece of paper and say, okay, 10, finish your turn to talk now and read that. Okay, Lena, go ahead and say this. No, hell no. I'm not a director. I don't tell them when to say. I produce a set, I produce a scene, and I allow them to inhabit it and play it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you're wanting to play Barbie dolls with everyone's characters and make them move, go write a book.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're going to be really sad when the players don't follow your story.
That's called railroading, and railroading is bad.
Railroading as a whole is bad.
Yeah.
Well, let me rephrase that. Honestly,
I was going to say sometimes it's necessary.
If you do it
Sometimes
right,
it's part of the adventure.
When you get some experience as a DM, you will be railroading all the time, and your players won't know it. Let's be honest.
That's fair.
And
that's fair.
Yeah, so railroading is a necessity, but when you say you can't because you have to, that's where it's bad. When you make the choice seem so obvious or so cool that that's the only way they were supposed to go, but it seemed like the best choice, that's good railroading.
Yeah.
The illusion of choice is enough to make them feel like they're making the choice, even if it was all 3 of these directions still lead back to here. It's okay. But anyway, I kind of went on a sidetrack there. Yeah, so players, Be ready to share the table. DMs, you're not writing a story. You're setting up the adventure. You're setting up the environment for the story to be told. You're setting up that you're presenting it so everyone can engage the adventure.
You're oh, what's the word I'm looking for? You're not supplementing. I can't think of the word right now.
Enhancing.
Facilitating. You're facilitating a story. That's what it is. You're facilitating a story.
That's the best way to say it. Best way to say it. You know, tools. Virtual tabletops are nice to have. You can use your Discord just for theater of mind, in which case everyone's just kind of describing what's happening. You know, you walked into that 30 foot by 30 foot room. There's a door on the opposite wall. There's the smell coming from the corner, but rather than being stairs, you look over and you see two twisted forms hunched over the body. You hear sounds of flesh being rent and bone being broke. You look up, it looks at you, and you see a greasy skinned undead. Well, let's fight. Roll initiative. I rolled a 23. Okay, my ghoul rolled a 17. Go. I'm going to walk up and hit him. Well, he's only 30 feet away. You know your movement is 30 feet, so there's nothing to measure. He's within range. Okay, I walk up and I swing. You roll your dice. You hit. You rolled 8 damage. All right, ghoul jumps up, swings back at you. Miss. That was the same combat encounter that you would have had on a virtual tabletop, moving a token 2 squares towards the ghoul.
Yeah.
That's theater of mind. That was a quick, dirty example of theater of the mind. You don't need a board. You don't need minis. You don't need virtual tabletops. You don't need any of that. You just, need willing subjects.
Yeah. I would say, yeah, D&D is just a game about freedom, honestly. Absolutely. It is just a framework for you to do whatever you want in it.
Now, I'm going to cap what you just said that off with one last little thing, and we may be able to end it there.
Okay.
The freedom to do what you want, to the extent of the meme statement, it's what my character would do. Okay?
Yeah.
So you've got to, number one, understand you're sacrificing a little bit of your ideal character when you're sitting down at a table of 4. Okay? We've all got the perfect character in our mind, and some bits and pieces of that character you may not work with this group. So it might behoove, let's trim a little bit of the edge off of the edgelord so he gets along with the group a little bit better. I steal his wallet because that's what my character would do. Well, the barbarian cuts your fucking head off because that's what he would do when someone steals from him. Because we literally just killed a bunch of people who tried to steal from him. So why would it be okay that you do it? That's what my character would do. My response as a barbarian is to kill you. I haven't known you long enough. Well, that's not right, man. We're a group. We're friends. Come on, what my character. Yeah, what my character would do is not an excuse, is not a license to be an absolute asshole to everyone around you. It's not a license to disrupt the group. Another thing I kind of put out there is it's like, if you got to ask the group if it's okay before your character does it, it's probably not okay to do it. So do you think it would be okay if I took the goblin's ears and pinned them to our donkey's head and one of your people in your group is squeamish, and that's why you're thinking about asking it. So just don't, man. If you think you got to ask to do it, it's probably not the best idea. Just a couple little tips there as far as good role play etiquette.
Yeah.
But anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Yeah, man. So we'll probably be back in the next couple of days, because both of us we were actually going to talk about the new Unearthed Arcana, the 1D&D shit, the stuff that was released today.
Yeah.
But I think Josh wisely talked me down off of doing that, because I'm kind of in the emotional rage machine right now. So I want to kind of calm down, see if some other stuff comes out, get some more information, let the emotions calm down.
A little bit more, yeah.
Well,
we both have very strong feelings about it, so don't worry. We both have very strong feelings about it.
Well, but at the end of the day, I mean, my goal is hopefully to provide some helpful insight for you guys, to be a little bit entertaining and more and to be as objective as possible. So for me to talk about the new UA right now, there's no objectivity in it. It's an absolute emotional reflex. So I want to wait, give it a few days, reread it, check it out, see some of the forum feedbacks, all of that, and then I'll come back and you'll still hear my scree. I'm pretty sure I'm right.
No.
But it'll be tempered with a week of thinking.
I've gotten down to just reading some of the new spells, and that's all I needed. I've been flexible
about one up to this point. I've been like, well, you know, I mean, I was joking when they first announced it, like this will be now my 6th edition change, 7th. BECME 1E, 2E, 3E, 3.5E, 4E, 5E, going on 1E. This will be my 8th edition change just for Dungeons and Dragons. We're not talking about Cyberpunk 2020 on its 3rd edition now. We're not talking about Twilight 2000 on its 4th edition now. It's just D&D, okay? So I'm a veteran of the edition wars. And I've always, I mean, most of my content is 1st edition, 2nd edition that I brought up for 5th. I'm not afraid of any edition, but I am afraid of one. They have made some horrifyingly ridiculous changes. All in, I don't want to go into the screed on that right now. We're about to finish up.
Yeah.
This will take me into another hour of ranting.
Yeah, I know. As I said, we both have very strong feelings.
So join us next week. We'll dig into some of the unearthed arcana, why we think some of it's interesting, why we think most of it is horseshit. Why I'm sorry, I said that too early. See, emotional reaction. Need to wait a week before I talk about it. But yes, we'll be back soon for another episode of Jim and Josh Talk D&D. We just kind of wanted to close out our new player, what is D&D to new people, with a little bit more in-depth information on a couple of the things, just to help you out. Again, we're not telling you first you roll initiative, then you decide if you're going to move and attack. Then you're going to... The rules do a way better job of that. We're kind of looking at more of a holistic, what to expect as players, what to expect as DMs, the stuff that the rulebook doesn't tell you. You know, I trust the rulebook to tell you how to do initiative better than I can. That's why it's written down. Come on, man. A little bit of credit.
Fair enough.
But, you know...
And yeah, that's also a thing. If you're playing D&D, be prepared to read from time to time. Just be prepared to read.
And yeah, that will be my parting thing. I have offended a few players by, you know you're playing D&D. It's reading is kind of a required part of this game. If you don't like reading, you need to go play a video game. Go play Skyrim. They talk to you. You don't have to read the stuff because they talk to you, and that's okay. Because, dude,
yeah, I'm old. I need subtitles now.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's yeah, you have to read. You have to be able to read. You don't have to enjoy it. You're not going to have to go through everything with a fine-tooth comb. I promise you that. But yeah, you need to be able to go in and clarify something for yourself. Find the spell, find the block. Make sure that you have a decent grasp of comprehension, because Wizards does a shit poor job with punctuation, so it might throw you. You might be reading it and go, "This makes no sense because this comma shouldn't be here. It should be there." So, but yeah, be ready to read. Yeah, that was one requirement that we didn't even really talk about. Yeah, you got to do some reading to play D&D. You got to do a lot of reading to be a DM. So, you know, but that comes as you go. This is after session 8. When we're talking about the first 3 sessions, we're having fun. 8th session, you're like, what's next? This is all the next. Get ready to read. Get some books. Have some fun with it. But above all else, man, respect each other's time. Respect the fact that you're here to have fun playing a game with each other. To the extent that invest in the people that are going to be part of your play group more than you invest in the character that you're playing. You can have long, great, grandiose adventures as long as the group is together and on the same page.
Absolutely.
But yeah, the game is nothing without the people. You know, I've said it quite often. I can make the coolest, best, baddest worlds and adventures and populate it and have a working economy system down to the 10th of a copper spanning 17 kingdoms and 14,000 hectares. If no one's playing in that kingdom, it's just shit floating in my brain, guys. So, you know, the players are necessary for the DM to have fun. The DM is necessary for the players to have fun. It's all just ideas until we get together and inhabit it and make it something living and real. You know?
Absolutely.
But yeah, man, we'll go ahead and sign off on part 2 here. And I'm going to fight with this new computer and see how to process new recordings and all that kind of good stuff. But DM Geezer Jim here, signing off. If Josh wants to plug himself, you're watching us on YouTube. You got a YouTube channel up yet, man?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Twitch?
It'll happen.
Not yet?
I have my Twitch up, but nothing's posted yet.
Okay.
Well, I'm really thinking that I'm gonna write a bio and start that up pretty soon.
Cool. Well, for me then, I'm gonna steal all the plugs for myself because he ain't ready.
Yeah.
A lot of my map work is on Etsy. Several of my modules and DM aids are on DM's Guild, Facebook, I have a Patreon where a lot of content that's on Etsy is also available for my patron followers. Twitch, everything is DM Geezer Jim. DM spelled. If you've seen the title right now on your YouTube, you can find me through all the rest of the stuff the same way. But yeah, we'd love your support. Like, follow the video, subscribe to the channel. If you want to help us out and support us in some other ways, jump in, man. Leave a comment. Let us know that you were here, what you liked, what you didn't like, what you thought we were full of shit on, what you want maybe hear some more about.
Don't hurt my feelings. We'll cry.
Oh yeah. I'll use Chucho's absorb damage ability. Don't worry. But yeah, like I said, we're having fun talking about stuff, hoping to share some information. But we also, want to be part of the community. Y'all watchers, y'all listeners are the community. Let us know how you think you're doing, how we're doing. Let us know what you'd like to hear about. Let us, this is a participatory thing. I don't want to say I'm DM Geezer Jim and what I said is truth and what I said is infallible and bite my ass if you don't agree. That's not how D&D works at all. So
yeah, absolutely, we're just a couple of guys just giving opinions, honestly.
Yeah, man, having fun, giving some opinions based on what works for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Doesn't mean that that's what works. It works for us, and that's what D&D is, finding out what works for y'all.
Absolutely.
All right, ladies, gentlemen, guys, girls, people, and everyone in between, thank you guys so much for your see, I'm trying to say guys instead of y'all, but I think y'all is actually better gender neutral than you guys, like the Northerners say. So I'm gonna go back to y'all because that's nice. Been fun sharing screen time with y'all. Appreciate everything. Tune back in soon. See you soon.